So here we are, my brother.
What's up? What's up?
How you doing?
You clear? Yeah, man, everything good.
I'm here. You
All
clear?
right.
Honestly, you might be bubblehead to this side and everything.
I was from yesterday. All the craziness was going yesterday.
Right.
I was streaming thing yesterday.
Good. Right. So, of course, I didn't do this in 10 days, but we have to do it again. The artist introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, DJs and non-DJs, the guy on your screen right now is a Trinidadian-born DJ living in New York City who has probably over, I would say, probably 30 years plus, if that is the number I could use in entertainment and the entertainment industry. So when you hear about the word and you hear about the term veteran, you don't get much more veteran than this guy. When you talk about guys who have been in entertainment and have been able to take entertainment on a global level, coming from Trinidad and Tobago, even though some of you may not know him by face, the bottom line is that he's an individual who has been involved in it for as long as I probably can remember, and that's something that we're going to get into detail about. He has global entertainment experience playing in events in the Caribbean, in Europe, parties in the Middle East, and everywhere in between. And he's flipped his DJ career to some extent, and he's also the if you put it, the director of Back to Basics Entertainment, which is also responsible for one of the biggest events that happened. I believe it's Memorial Day weekend, which have been this weekend. That is Shine. So if you are from New York and you've never been to Shine, something is wrong with you, because
You're under a rock. You're under a rock.
So Shine is one of the biggest events that happens in New York every year, plus other events that he hosts during the course of the year. Fun fact on the personal story, which I like to do sometimes, I actually met this brother on July 4th, 2017. That is to be exact, right? That was actually in St. Vincent for Vincy Mas. We were doing a Giants rum on Carnival Tuesday. We played right after, and since then we've remained in contact. And I was always appreciative of the fact that he tries to uplift guys, especially if it is a DJ who he's seen for the first time, plays well, whether young, old, or in between. He's one of the guys that wants to give that motivation to everybody. So, ladies and gentlemen, the ultimate party rocker, Mr. Ricardo Gomez, a.k.a.
Yes. I first wanted to tell you I'd like to tell you, big up to you and for creating this platform for people to understand, other people in the industry, or they may not have an opportunity to really speak to people or get to know the ins and outs of like DJs and entertainers and stuff. And they learn new things. If they didn't know anything before, they know now through this platform. Even I learned a few things about some of my peers. So I just say big up to you for that, and the whole group Terry team for bringing this platform out to introduce people to a different side of the entertainers. They only see us on stage, but they really don't know what's behind the scenes or how we got there, or how we intend to stay there. And this is a great platform to for people to understand us better, as human beings, not just as entertainers on the stage,
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'll actually put out this for the first time since I've been started doing these lives. I am a YouTube junkie, and I don't know if anybody else here is like a YouTube junkie like me, but a lot of times when I'm on YouTube, I look at interviews where they talk to artists, and there are things that you hear about artists, some of the biggest artists that we've been following for years that we have never known. And the truth and fact is that as DJs, especially traveling DJs, there is a lot that people would not know about you. And there's a lot of misconceptions that go out in society. Sometimes that actually affects the name and your brand. And I think that this was a perfect opportunity, especially with the coronavirus and how this pandemic has treated everybody, that we've had the opportunity now for DJs to tell their stories. Because there is some young DJ that is watching tonight that will hear the Back to Basics story and be like, yo, I did not know this. And this is something that can help inspire me to go to the next level. So for everybody, including yourself, that has been on this, I really do appreciate the time and your honesty. Because as we've been saying from the beginning, we want everybody to be authentic, say what you feel, and at least people can be able to see that side of you, because this, as you rightfully say, you are a person and an individual, Just before we continue, if anybody has any questions tonight, we will take questions later on, so you can post it right in the comment section below and tag the little question mark icon next to that. If you don't want to be identified with questions, you could follow me on Instagram at Shomari KRL and send me it on direct message, and we'll get those messages to Carlo. All right. So I'm gonna start, of course, with the biggest news in the world for the last 10 weeks or so, which is the pandemic that has been affecting the world in total. I've been seeing while watching international news, and especially with CNN, that there's now an experiment, if you want to call it that, for the states to reopen and restart the economy, right? I do believe, however, that New York City is a little bit different from everywhere else. How has this pandemic really affected you in total? And do you see the reopening that has been taking place across the US, do you see that being a positive thing at this point in time, given where the virus is?
I'm a little wary and cautious of the rate at which they're coming back, because I was right here in the belly of the beast, seeing the devastation that this pandemic created in New York, and we, they call us ground zero, I mean, because we had, most, some of the most deaths in the US, and it's, to see it from the outside and to be in here is two different things, I came back from Trinidad, I think, March 5th, and I think it's so much the week after. I think it's the week after when everything started really, really locking down. And by that point,
I quite certain, like Assassin Singh and everybody else I spoke to, when you came off that truck on Carnival Tuesday, you were not expecting to fly back home to this.
I had no idea. You take it for granted because you knew it was there. You knew it happened. You knew it was happening, but you just have this thing that, hey, that ain't happening. That ain't coming. That, we might get a few cases. It wouldn't be that serious. Even though people were getting sick. I mean, to be honest with you, I got sick just before I came to Trinidad.
Wow.
Yeah, I got really sick where it was 2 days before I came to Trinidad. I spiked a fever and I had a flu. I had the flu, and I fought it down and I got it down and I was able to fly. And when I got to Trinidad, like I woke up the next morning and literally I couldn't breathe. So I went to the doctor. Doctor took care of me. I was ready to go in 2 days. But I've spoken to some of my medical friends, particularly a doctor friend of mine, and she said based on my symptoms, I may have gotten it myself, but a different strain though. There are different strains of corona, right? And there is a slight possibility that I may have gotten one of the weaker strains, right? May have, who knows? That's a blessing and a curse because they say if you've gotten it, you have antibodies in you that helps fight it. But in response to your question about going back, I think people, which I don't blame them, they're being held on because like I said, when I came back from Trinidad, I came back on the 5th. I probably left my house probably no more than 5 or 6 times.
Wow.
Literally, right? And those times were necessities. They were necessities, meaning I went for essential supermarket groceries and stuff. I was called for about 2 or 3 lives, and Kevin Krong, being he's my brother, he extended his studio to me.
Yeah.
And that was the only exception to my rule of really good. Now that's how bad it was.
Right.
Do I think we are ready, to really fully go back to some state of normalcy? I don't think so. I think people are moving too fast. That's my opinion.
Right.
I think they're moving too fast. I think the weather is particularly here. You don't have the change in weather. When we had the right now, Memorial Weekend, and that change in weather is time to pump.
Right.
It's time to and I think that the heat and the holiday and the things that we're used to is making us forget what is really happening. Right. And I think that we need to be careful of that. That's what I think. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think we need to be careful and we need to be cautious and we need to walk. We don't need to run. You understand? We need to walk.
That's so poignant that you said that, because you're a guy in entertainment. So the expectation would be that, if tomorrow the country reopens, back to basic on Friday or Saturday doing shine.
Not me, partner. Not me. When they start, they could start.
Right.
Let the front line fetters go first, and then I would fall in. Because you listen, you listen. Do you not to bring in a little sad story? Do you remember the news a couple of weeks ago about a funeral home that was overwhelmed with the body count?
Yes, and the bodies were in the truck outside the funeral home.
The trucks
right.
went outside for some days.
Right. Yeah.
That is 2 blocks away from my house.
Oh wow.
Right. So it hit home. You know, that day when it happened, there was helicopters over the place. There was police. You know, it was just a lot of traffic and a lot of action. And when I found out what it really was, it really hit home, because I remember when I went to the supermarket and stuff, I had to pass that very funeral home, and I remember seeing the trucks on that block. So it kind of freaked me out to know that there were actual, you know, deceased in those vehicles. You know, and, you know, when wow. Like I said, when you're home and when that's just my opinion on that.
Yeah.
With the pandemic.
Yeah.
I think we will prevail. I think we will overcome. You know, we are all globally at the mercy of this pandemic, so nobody can predict how long this is going to last. Right? So yeah. I think in the meantime, we need to do what we know, keep the awareness up, you know, and try to minimize the transmission of this virus, because it's deadly. It's deadly. I'm fortunate to not have any personal family that I've lost, but I've lost a few friends, and I know a lot of friends who have lost a lot of friends and family. I have a particular DJ friend of mine. I won't mention his name because for his privacy, but yeah. He lost like about 4 different family members and close people to his family in the space of 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. You know. Yeah. And you know, it's devastating. It's really devastating. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Kevin Crown, when we had the discussion. I spoke to Kevin Crown via this medium about 3 weeks ago, and he was also indicating to me that he also lost some friends and people that were family.
He lost an uncle. He lost an uncle.
Yeah, lost an uncle as well. So, and you know, one of the reasons why when we have the live, even though this is to discuss entertainment, especially in a time of COVID, the bottom line is that we always go with that first caveat in a time of COVID. And as Caribbean people, especially right now, we are still kind of getting over, I wouldn't say strands, but we're getting over the effects of what happened to the rest of the world. And even though we've had the virus in some of the islands, I don't think we all genuinely appreciate how challenging it is, especially for you all that are living in the US and in different parts of the world right now where the virus is spreading rapidly. So I totally take your point, understand that. To switch gears a little bit, it's always interesting to me, and as I tell people this, I'm going to say it like this. When I had the conversation I had with Just Jay a couple of weeks ago, Just Jay doesn't believe in a press kit, right? But the funny thing about it is that when a guy sends you a document that has information about him, even for me now, in somebody wanting to have a conversation, I learned so many different things that I did not know before. For example, as a Trinidadian, I did not know that you went to St. George's College. That's correct, right?
Yeah.
Right. And for anybody who probably doesn't know, St. George's College is the alma mater of Voice as well. So Voice went to St. George's College, right? And in moving to the US, I did not even know before you went there. And for anybody here who doesn't know about it, because I messaged back to basics, you are on party time. So
yes, boy.
So for anybody here who, from wherever country you're from, if they don't know what party time is probably one of the most influential entertainment programs that we've had in Trinidad and Tobago, because it was 100% locally produced. But for anybody that doesn't know what party time was about, what did you do on party time?
I was one of the DJs for our rap group, you know. As you know, party time they became a lot of byproducts of party time became a lot of outlets of the entertainment industry to today, right? and in many different forms, you know, from singing to producing to doing that kind of thing. My end was I was like the DJ and, you know, scratching for the rap group.
This was Ghettorians?
One of the guys yes, Ghettorians.
You serious?
Yeah.
Yo,
yeah, but I didn't go through the whole competition with them though, because I eventually graduated from St. George's to come up here to continue my studies here in college.
Right.
So I entered university here, and at that time the party time was still continuing, and they continued. That is Gage, who's Black Chariot now. I was their DJ.
Yes. Yes, and
Gage was part of Ghettorians.
Exactly, and for anybody again who doesn't know, because of course we have a lot of people from New York City here right now. Black Chariot is one of the foundation reggae sound systems, if you want to call it sound system, in Trinidad and Tobago that has been doing this for how many years? So if you want to get into conscious music and reggae music, and you don't know Black Chariot in Trinidad and Tobago, something is wrong with you.
Something is wrong.
But so this is actually real useful information that I did not know, and I just say Ghettorians because I remember Ghettorians was really big at that point in time, because that was the now developing songs, different sounds out of Trinidad and Tobago, because yes, we were primarily a soca and calypso country, but then you have a couple of guys singing reggae, couple of guys singing dancehall, and one or two singing hip hop, and Ghettorians was actually one of the biggest acts at that point in time. So do you keep in contact with these guys up to this day? I haven't
spoken to Gage in a while, but from time to time we do cross paths, and see each other. It's like yesterday, because we all lived in I lived in Barataria when I was living in Trinidad,
right?
And he lived in Barataria as well. So that's how we all became. You know, we were like childhood friends. We grew up together. You know,
One of the misconceptions, I think, that goes in music, and I had this conversation with Barry Hype, so I see Barry Hype with us tonight.
Yeah, big up Barry.
Is that a lot of people feel that we as DJs and people in entertainment, we just start playing music and then we end up into it just like that. But a lot of people don't really know the historical aspects of how much or how involved in entertainment we've been throughout the course of our lives. And you made some mention to some stuff to me just as you got into, when you moved to the US and you started to work on some of the places that you're working. So one, I didn't know that your degree was in, it was engineering. That's correct, right?
Well, actually, yes and no. So when I left Trinidad to come up here to study, I took my major in business administration.
Right.
And I have a degree in business administration. I do. In the process of me studying for that degree, I came into that university, to that college, with the passion for music. So as soon as I got into the college, I wanted to know where the radio station was, what's going on, who doing what. I still wanted to be part of that.
And this is something that you could say continued as a passion from Trinidad into New York City, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Right. Listen, fun fact to go back in the early years, when I first started, even before the whole Ghettorians thing, I was always into music, running here, doing these little things. I remember you would know what I'm talking about. I used to sneak out of my house to go move box for the professionals.
Right.
You know, I just used to. It's just because you love for carnival time. Those days, I was never into carnival.
Right.
Never. But if a truck on the road, I'm going on that truck.
Right.
You know. So because that was my passion. That was my love. That's what drew me to the carnival. Not the masqueraders, not the mass. I didn't care for that. You know. I wanted to emulate. I wanted to watch these guys play music, and I wanted to be part of it. Any party I could be in, you know. My guys who I idolized back in those days was, you know, I came from the Maxi Taxi era, you know. So you're talking about, you know, Dr. Hyde, you know, Star Child, you know, those guys, Army Taff.
I read a kind of when I was in Brooklyn last year, and funny enough, I hadn't made much journeys to the US before that. I remember going down and taking on Flatbush, where they call, I think it's a $2 van or whatever, whatnot. And that so remind me of the Maxi Taxi generation.
Yeah, the Maxi Taxi era. Yeah. I actually I grew up in those times. I came out of that era from the King Packer Property era to the Chinese laundry era, Chinese laundry, signal to noise. You know, I was in school and going to school, and Brian Reggie is also a good friend of mine, but he's also an idol, someone I idolized, you know,
right.
and taught me a lot too, you know. We became good friends over the years, and he taught me a lot. Fun fact, everybody out there might be surprised by this. I am known as what they call an international soca DJ, right? But when I first started playing music, I did not play soca.
Right.
I did not play soca. I learned to play music. Playing what we call freestyle music and house music. That was my love.
And this was my love. So this was something that you learned to play from the beginning,
from the beginning.
You had this, because I think a lot of times, especially in the Caribbean, a lot of us learn to play music. Well, I learned to play via dancehall, right? So I always remember, for me, the first two rhythms I ever learned to mix was the rhythm with Romy and Girls Them Sugar. So I remember that was the first two rhythms I learned. But you learned via house music.
Yeah, I was house music. Because what happened was when I left Trinidad, I was playing the house music. I was playing all those things. I was playing all the Bon Jovi. I used to play music and go behind St. Augustine and go behind Playboy Lalo. Them days he wasn't Lalo. He was Playboy Lalo. May rest in peace. I used to be up there with them guys and them. Big O'Brien and those guys. Right. So I was always into that, freestyle and house music. You used to call them Only in the Night Days. Remember them Only in the Night Days? That's the kind of music I used to play. And what made it worse is when I came to New York and I came to the college, I went to Kingsborough first, Kingsborough Community College. Right. And they had a little Caribbean community there, but the radio station was totally house music. So if I wanted to be involved in it, that was like, whoa, this is easy for me to get involved in. So I got involved with them. I started DJing. The guys there started teaching me how to do production and splice tape. And those days we were in the analog era, so we were splicing tape and showing me how to make commercials, showing me how to mic, showing me how to mix. And soca was not in my vocabulary, never in my vocabulary at that time. Right. But when I got better and better and better, and I started doing, little clubs and thing here in New York, playing house music, and I felt I was getting good at it. But I felt like I could make them tracks, man. I could do that because it when you listen to house music and you I still had my soca foundation. I just didn't play it. I said, boy, I think I'd incorporate them soca vibes into this house music. This could be a whole new song. Right. And that's what made me start changing. I started saying, you know what, I have a good talent here. Everybody was saying I'm really, really good. I said, let me contribute my talent to my culture. Right. And that's why I decided to say, let me start playing soca music, Yeah. And I wasn't only playing soca music alone.
Was that challenging? Because again, you're in a college where they're playing predominantly house, and I guess because of the community area, and it's basically US based music, right? How challenging was that for people who don't have the ears to soca to kind of convince them and sell them on soca music? Because ironically enough, now, long before I met you in 2017, I'd heard about you and I'd never known who you were physically as in seeing you. But I always tell people that you are one of the DJs I look at that was putting soca out there in the non-Caribbean universe, not from our islands, but putting soca out there in like New York and all these other places on a commercialized level that really and truly other DJs won't do it. Yes, and because I have plenty of friends who moved away, some into hip-hop, some playing reggae, whatever, but you're one of the first guys that was like, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, soca is part of my culture. Even though I haven't been playing it for so long, now I want to integrate it into what is I'm doing. Was it difficult for you to really and truly bring soca to the forefront with ears that may not have heard it or paid much attention to it before?
No, because I wore two hats. Like there was when I was with those guys or that clique, I would do the house music and I would study it. And those days I'm buying records, so I would buy records and do the whole thing. But then there was this other world, right? This other underground world in New York. This soca scene, the party scene wasn't like it was today. It was a nice party scene. And I used to go parties. I used to go all the soca parties. I see one of the guys in there that I used to idolize, DJ Anonymous. He's in here right now. Big up Ichibaba. You see him in here. He was one of the guys. He was one of the guys that when I go a party, you used to see people like, Supreme Team, DJ Anonymous, and then there was Madman Maddie, King Chow. I see Chinese Chow in here. That's his son. That's young Chow's dad. I played with these guys, but before So I idolized these guys when I was small. Like I went to a party one time. I went to a big fete and I saw all of them playing. And I sat up one day and I saw how they was just playing music and had the crowd going crazy. And I say, I want to do that. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. And I remember going to each one of them and saying, I started making friends with them, befriending them and talking to them. GB Production, the original GB Production, who's passed away now. I started making friends with them and started to learn the scene and the whole culture here that was going on in New York. And eventually, I ended up making friends with one of the outfits because each one of them already had their teams. They couldn't fit me in. I wanted to get in bad. I started saying, I want in. But they couldn't, and there was one guy that took me seriously, and that was a DJ called Song City. And Song City, when they took me in, the rest was history. That's what started this. That's what really started this. We sort of dominated the whole scene on the market for 10 plus years in New York. And that's when the traveling started. That's when the traveling started. Now traveling in them days wasn't the traveling we were doing now. If we were going to Boston, I feel like I was going Berlin. You understand? That was a big trip. I taken 2 days off and just to go to Boston. It was a big thing because we never did that before, So anywhere that was within driving distance, we would consider we on the road, we on tour.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what we were doing. We would go to DC, Virginia. We would never go far, And then the Miami scene started buzzing. It wasn't big yet. And we ventured into that, and then we grew with that, I stayed with them for about a little over 10 years. And after a while, our points of views kind of was a little different. I wanted to go one way and they wanted to go another way. And we just decided amicably that, we'll go our separate ways. And I started a new chapter, opened a new chapter. And that's where Back to Basics started. Right?
It's always interesting. I like to hear how people come up with names for themselves as DJs. So a fun story. My next door neighbor, he used to live here 2 hours away. I had this in a documentary video I posted a couple of weeks ago. We used to call ourselves DJ Viper, right? Which was a horrible name at the point in time. You see, you're laughing, so it was a horrible name at the point in time. But it was so funny that about a month later, when we were now trying to develop a much more commercial name, I just came and I saw a big R on the record box. And he was like, yeah, ready mix. And I was like, why? And I was like, well, because you're ready to mix. And that was basically it. And that
simple as that.
So for you, where did the idea to get Back to Basic came from in terms of the name?
All right, so it comes back to what I was doing with Song City. Back in those days, right? It was the regular 2 turntables, a mixer. That's what a DJ would do, and they will go with their own sound system. Right. Nobody played on nobody's sound system.
Yes, I remember.
Everybody went with their sound system. If I had to play in a party Saturday night with Song City, my day started at 4 in the afternoon.
Because you have to throw the speaker boxes straight to the venue.
String it up. You had to build your speakers, build your banks, line up, run your wires, tune your system, And then you get ready, then you do your party, and when you do it, you gotta break it down and bring it back home.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So my day could start as early as 4 p.m. on the Saturday and end at 9 p.m. on a Sunday morning. You know?
Wow.
Those were great memories because, you know, it's great memories. But going back to that, Song City and I was Song City had the owner of Song City, his name was Floyd. He had a vision that was way ahead of his time. He was always way ahead of his time in terms of things he wanted to do. So when everybody was playing record and just doing things, he went and got samplers and keyboards and drum machines. And we were putting on a show in parties. Like we were literally putting on live, sampling live, knocking drum machines live. Like we were putting on a real crazy show.
Is that where Young Chow gets this thing now where he comes, he sampler, plays the drum? Yes,
sir. Yes, sir.
I think it was you and St. Vincent passed him. I was like, yo, you still playing drums? And
Yes, sir. We created that in Brooklyn, created that whole vibe, like with rhythm, and it was a crazy era because it was real vibes. It was real vibes. It was original. It was authentic and unique, you know. Right. And we did that for years, right? But to speed up his story, you know, Floyd kept going a direction that I didn't agree with. You know, I mean, I just felt that way. You know, I felt I was, you know, I had my own vision. I'm like, maybe I don't want to continue going that route. I wanted to do my thing, and we couldn't seem to agree on it. You know, I felt technically speaking and electronically speaking, we were going too far into that, and I felt we were losing the authenticity of DJing, like actually playing. You know, I felt like it was going to be almost an automated thing, and I didn't want to do that. You know, so I figured if I didn't want to go that far technologically and that far, I wanted to go back to basics. I wanted to bring it back down.
Right,
you know?
right.
And that's where the name came from. And I sat down one day and I was like, what name can I come up with? Blah, 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 blah. And, you know, and I, you know, like, Ichibaba is there, you know, and I'm not saying, we used to talk all the time. And I gave him like 3 names and I said, this, that. And so I said back to me, he said, that is it right there. And I said, yes, brother, I feel that too. And what I believe in, I could have made any name, you know. I could have called myself DJ Boom, you know, Boomfly.
Once is not Viper. Once is not Viper.
Right. Well, maybe I'll contradict what I'm going to say. I feel a name is just a name. The name shouldn't make you. You have to make the name, right? And a classic example of that, what I learned that from, is I was actually in one of the very first parties that they announced when I was young, out there running away from home to go in little parties and things. And I remember they say, oh, Chinese laundry. And I laughed. I said, oh, this man going to name himself Chinese laundry. Chinese laundry? How you name yourself Chinese laundry? Isn't that like a universal name right now? So I learned from that. It's like the name should not make you. You should not find a name to make you. You can find a name that's connected to you, that you have some sort of connection with, but you have to make the name, and you have to make it, you know, you have to put in the work to make the name.
I agree with that, but I will also say, and this is something I learned a couple of years ago, and it might be straight off topic, but it's kind of staying on what we're staying with. So I'll go and get a little bit philosophical, but just bear with me for a second. A long ago back in Mayan culture, they used to say that when mothers would name their child, it would be a name that would be synonymous of what they wanted that person to be when they got older. So if they named the child if they gave the child a name, and in the thoughts behind it, that name meant something, it's because that this is what they saw. So that's why some people whose name might be whatever, and when you look into the history of it, that name means king. At the end of the day, your parents expect you to be a king. So inadvertently, that name that you chose kind of speaks to the kind of individual that you are. Because yes, you made the name, but even though you've made the name, that name is synonymous with the kind of person that you are, in terms of you identify with generations before you and kind of take it back to the basic level of understanding of music and entertainment, and that has fueled your career. And not just fueled your career, but it's helped you to continuously reinvent yourself, which is the next question I want to ask, because we have a lot of people and DJs who come by our lives. And, you know, even with me in my process of getting to this point, there are DJs who I know that have started and fallen off. And I know that you probably have seen them as well too. What do you think for any younger DJ or any mature DJ that's looking on right now, for you, is the key to reinventing yourself continuously and being relevant in an industry that many people would say is really driven by younger people the majority of the time?
Well, the first thing you have to know is be very familiar with your industry, your surroundings, and what it takes to connect with that industry, right? With your followers, you be people out there. That's one, right? I always say this, like I believe there's a few things you need to have to create that longevity. And you know, there was a time back in you know, like I said, back then, you know, you earned that name, you earned that rank. You know what I mean? Those days you put in your work and you earn it by getting your music, you know, dedicating your skill, your craft, your knowledge of the music, you know, your knowledge of knowing what your crowd wants. And, you know, when you did that, you make a name for yourself. Today, there are other factors you need in this thing. And you know, some people call it fortunate, some people call it unfortunate, but it is a fact, you know, it's a package. It's a package today. You know, it's not just, you know, it's a marketing thing. It's a connectivity thing. It's a personality thing. You know, it's not just talent alone, you know. I know, I see what you're talking about there's a lot of guys that come on and fall off, you know, and they may not have perfected their craft to the point where they're great and versatile and have all the music and they could mix and everything, but they may not know how to connect to the masses out there, and that's where the social media comes in. That's a factor that you need. That's very important. It's very important to learn these you know, what's coming out that connects with everybody. What did we do when we all shut down and we got locked down? We came straight here. Everybody grabbed their phones, right?
Right.
If I feel like if a DJ does not know how to use this to his advantage, and I'm not referring to Instagram alone, I'm talking about social media, for example, then that could be a factor that could be hindering you from progressing, right?
Let me be devil's advocate from it, right?
Okay.
And I saw Overdose from the Bahamas in the chat. I want to shout him out because I had this conversation with Overdose a couple of weeks ago. As you know, about 3 weeks ago, we did, or I should say 2 weeks ago, we had a 1 week of the next generation of DJs. And I thought that conversation with Overdose was so poignant at the point in time, because he was saying that he is born in this generation, and these are the tools that he has to work with, and he is utilizing these tools as well as his skills to be able to push forth his career. But I know you of yourself would be able to appreciate that there'll be multiple people who would have gone a little bit before you and probably even come after you that feel that to some extent, as much as the social media and stuff is out there, there is some extent where that hype that is created from social media has caused some to bypass the talent. Do you agree with that?
Of course it is. I was just going to make a point to you that there are a lot of, unfortunately, this is the world we live in, and there are a lot of talented DJs who, because they may not be, you know, as you know, as what's the word I'm looking for? Effective, effective in utilizing the tools of social media. They may not be able to show their craft and their talent the way they would like to. As you and I both know, I wanted to say this: there are definitely a lot of talented DJs who are not exposed and it should be on this platform internationally just as much as I am. I see it all the time. I see it all the time, and vice versa. You know, there are not so talented. They may not be as talented as these guys, but because they know what to do and how to connect and have that package, they've gotten by pretty far.
So then I can ask you this question, because you wear multiple hats. You wear hats as a DJ, you're an announcer as well. You have the audio experience in terms of being from the technical side, but at the same point in time, you're a promoter. How do you then, or how are you able to assess then talent that, as I said, growing up in the social media generation now, where somebody could, as we like to say in Trinidad, for anybody who probably doesn't know what the statement means, you can sell a loo, right? And selling a loo means that your social media, your Instagram is turned up to 100, but when people hear you play, it's like, nah, dog, like, there's no substance to this. So how for you, for yourself, seeing somebody who might have 10, 15,000 followers, but then at the same point in time, you want to judge them on the skill and balance that with the following? Like, how do you do that as a promoter? Because yes, you want to have somebody who has the following, has the market of people, but at the same point in time, you want to have somebody who could holistically play the music at the level that is expected by you. Because again, if we go back to basics, the back to basic to me is you need to be able to mix, read a crowd, play it at a particular level, understand being able to entertain people, and most importantly, which is something we've said throughout this entire series, understand that you're playing for them and not playing for yourself.
Well, I'll say this very interestingly. First of all, I'm a DJ, right? And I feel that I have an advantage over say some promoters who would be looking for that, for the entertainment they need, right? I think I have that advantage because I'm not a promoter, I'm a DJ who promotes. So being a DJ who promotes, being a DJ who promotes knows what he needs to make his party effective, make my event effective, right? I do a few different events. It doesn't mean I'll hire the same DJs for every event, you know, friends or not. There's certain events I would have that will require certain DJs. Now, being that I travel a lot, I've been exposed to them all, right? So I have pretty much a pick of the litter as a promoter, you know, to know what my people will like and what they won't like, right? I also feel for guys, I think the longevity, for what I want to tell guys out there, like, for example, how I stayed so long, is that definitely consistency. Consistency is a very important word, to be consistent in the game. You have to be very consistent. You have to be very consistent. You have to be in touch with who's who in the market, especially with what I do internationally. You have to understand every market. You know, every market is different, and you have to connect every time. You and I both know, like, for example, you know, being in St. Vincent for Vincy Carnival is one way of dealing with those crowds and connecting with those crowds. And literally, Carnival Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday morning, I'm in St. Lucia, reset. It's a whole different, you know, approach, you know? So you, with your skill, you have to know how to adapt to your crowds, and you know, that gives you the longevity. You know, I mean, I was fortunate to. I think my longevity is because I was traveling long before traveling was an in thing. I was. I never called myself an international DJ. I was just glad to get out of New York. I was just glad, you know, because just doing the same parties over and over. That sounds so bad,
but I understand. I take your point.
I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean, it was just nice to see new, refreshing people and doing new things. And, you know, it's sad, but you would notice when you're home, you're appreciated one way, but when you go outside, you're appreciated in such a different level. You know, I think because people home your home base is used to you, but when you go outside, that appreciation is another level, and that's a high for me. That's a high that I like. It's the truth, because as rightfully said,
I was having this conversation with Just Jay in one of the lives that we had before. Just Jay said something to me that was so amazing. He said, I've never been a popular or big DJ in Barbados, right? And this is Just Jay, a guy who was going to the Red Bull Freestyle Championships once and was on his way again back to the Red Bull Freestyle this year. So he's not just representing Barbados, but by extension, he's representing the Caribbean, right? Of me, of myself, in the last couple of years, I have not been that big DJ here. But as you would see, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Fusion Mass, all these other islands, we have that market. And it is such an infectious feeling to be somebody who, as you rightfully say, living in New York, but when you go to these other islands, there's a particular kind of love that you get that for some reason is totally different from home. Why do you think that's the case? Why do you think that's the case?
Well, it's what we bring. It's different. First of all, what we bring is refreshing, and as long as we are bringing something that's good and positive, it's always different. And I think people like different, you know. And
yeah.
As long as it's different, it's not bad. They appreciate it more. I think when they know that I'm, you know, so-called a Trinidadian DJ, for example, coming into St. Vincent, for example, St. Lucia, Grenada, and they see how you embrace their music and then you take their music, manipulate it, and really, really explode with it, they're like, wow, I really like this guy, or I really like this DJ because this DJ took his time to figure out my culture, my craft, you know? And that is very important today. It's not just saying you're traveling and, hey, I'm traveling, and, you know, it's just fun. This is a lot of hard work. And on the flip side of that, it's also on the flip side of that to say that you can't go in there with jaded glasses thinking that as a Trinidadian DJ, you could come and play whatever it is that you feel and people go and watch you well. Like, actually, not. No way. If it is that Absolutely
you do not connect with the culture that you're with, and I tell younger DJs this all the time, that you have to do your research into the islands and into the places that you go to. And I think that's one of the common denominators with every DJ that we've had for the last couple of weeks. I want to get to our point quickly, and just for everybody that's tuned in, 9:30 we're going to break because we want to ensure that we save this content for our YouTube channel. So at 9:30, which is in 5 minutes or less than 5 minutes, Ricardo and I are going to come back on the next side of 9:30. But I want to ask you a question quickly. You were pointing out just now that consistency is key. But one of the challenging things that for me I've been able to see with a lot of guys who are creatives, because DJs are creatives, is that especially at times like this, it's kind of hard to maintain that motivation to consistency, especially when you've done things so many times over. And look, for example, with you have now been put into the position where you have been part of 2 ground zero experiences, right? And with all those challenges that go on with the economy, with finances, with the changes in the party culture, whatever, how do you keep motivated to keep that consistent over a period of time?
It's hard, eh? It's hard because, you know, when no one ever thought, there's no DJ would ever think we would have been in this position right now. I never... Up and like you made a joke earlier. You said up until I came off that truck Carnival Tuesday, I never thought we would be in this position. So it's safe for me to say I can admit it. I was not prepared for this. I definitely was not prepared for it. It was a little bit devastating. It was a little bit stressful, you know. But if you know your craft and you believe in your craft and you have a passion for what you do, then you have to figure out a way. Like everything else, you figure out what can I do to compensate for what's going on. You know, you have to do it. You have to sit down and brainstorm and think about it, or else get out of the game, because because it's going to overwhelm you. It's going to suck you up, and it's going to throw you away. You're not going to be able to figure it out. I love this. I have a passion for it. I am not going anywhere anytime soon. And as the pandemic or anything, I'm going to find a way to play for the people. And that perseverance and consistency is what you need. It has to come from your heart. You have to love this. If you do this as a hobby, you're going to have a different perception of how you feel about this. You're going to be like, hey, I don't know this now. I good. We really don't know when things are going to open back up. We really don't know when we're going to have some level of normalcy. We don't know. But I am going to stick with it until we figure this out.
Somebody made a comment to me last year when I was in Brooklyn. And it was about people who are entrepreneurs, including DJs and creative entrepreneurs that come out to New York and have been living in New York for numerous years. And the comment that was made to me is that the hustle in New York is quite different from what you experience in the Caribbean. And even for me, I see how some of you guys go. So take, for example, Kevin Crown. Kevin Crown basically has his show every day on Instagram, right? And he goes hard on what he's doing. Rigo Suave. Rigo recently did a 18-hour Instagram live, you understand? Even you, like, you put a particular level of work in yesterday. We're like, yo, we want to get this thing together, and you had Shine virtually yesterday. What do you think is the difference with that? And I'll just coin it for the purpose of this conversation. What do you think is the difference with that New York hustle? That I look at it as a New York hustle, because I've seen a lot of guys put themselves into entertainment, but it's just something different about you guys, that you take a particular aggression to it. And I don't mean aggression in a negative way, but just like how you sat and said, yo, I'm not going anywhere. This is wherever, whatnot. What do you think makes that mindset?
I think it's like what you say. I think it's in New York way. I mean, we don't see what you see. It's nothing odd or weird to us. Like what I see from mine, what I see Rigo do is what I would do. What I see Kevin do is what I would do. What Kevin see Rigo do is what he would do. What I see Chow do is what we're driven like that. It's a normal thing for us. And I think that has to do. I think it has to do with living here. I think the way of life here, and we don't compete against each other. I mean, at least, DJs have certain factors, different groups, but still we don't really compete against each other, but we definitely fiercely go for what we want.
Right.
We definitely aggressively go for what we want. And if we want it and we really know we have to go, then we're going to go hard. We're going to go hard. I think that's where the survival of the fittest comes in. And that's why they're in every country, who's you could look from the outside and know who really wants it. If you want it, you have to put in the work. You have to put in the work.
I saw Chacha say they're power of the collective, which is such an interesting comment to make, because many times I have conversations with younger DJs, and that's one of the reasons why we at Group Theory decided to do the week where we feature the next generation. One of the constant conversations I was having with them is in terms of who are some of the mentors that they had in the industry that helped them along, right? And I know a lot of times we hear, and again, it's just based on conversation, that there are a lot of elder DJs or DJs that are veteran DJs that, as some say, fight down the younger ones, right? The argument and the debate is that at the end of the day, you have to be able to earn a particular right. But at the same point in time, I do believe, especially like through mediums like Group Theory, we've been able to put our experience out there as a form of mentorship for others. What do you think about that thought process that I guess a lot of younger DJs make? Not everyone, but a lot of younger DJs, in terms of the veteran DJs not really giving them the chance that they think that they may be deserving of, if you want to put it like that.
I lost you for a second. Just repeat the question really quick.
What I was saying basically is, what is your opinion on some of the younger DJs that may feel that they have not gotten the assistance that they need to be able to make it to the next level in that way, and as such, they feel that they have been held back, so to speak, by some of the more veteran DJs?
It depends on who you're exposed to. I mean, I cannot speak for who they feel is fighting them down. I can really only speak for myself, with that. And
yeah.
From my perspective with younger DJs, I wish when I was their age, I had somebody like me to tell them uplifting things and encouraging words.
Yeah.
So I never hesitate to encourage someone or compliment someone or compliment a DJ and say how good they are. No matter how I would see Private Ryan put down a wicked set and come off, and as big as he is, I would pull him aside and say, yeah, boy.
Yeah, that's facts because ironically, that's how you and I met. That's how we met.
Exactly. I didn't know you. I really didn't know who you were.
Yeah.
I didn't know Kerry at all. And I'm there and I'm watching, and I was standing with Tony, and I was like, Tony. I said, who's that? He's like, yeah. He said, I carry and Shomari. They be here doing things in Vinci. And I say, yeah, brothers of them shut it. And just because I said it to myself, I don't have an ego to share that with anybody. I came and I saw you. I didn't come running to you. We crossed each other and I saw you and I say, hey, nice,
Yeah.
And I feel that those things, if I can make a difference in somebody's in a DJ's career or decisions of where they want to go, or know that they're doing the right thing, because I wouldn't necessarily tell an upcoming DJ they did bad. I'll just give them constructive criticism. I'll tell my peers they play shit, because I want them to tell me I play shit.
Right.
You understand? Because we are friends and we constructively talk like that. Hey, you're a mashup. Hey, partner, you play real shit. You play a little shit here. We do that to each other. And we push each other. Sometimes I'm playing, and I might be going a certain vibe, but I might be at a 7, and maybe Rigo on his side there, and he might feel, like he will come to me in front and go, yo, there we go. So we uplift each other. So I would love to do that for the younger guys. Now, there might be some veteran DJs. I don't know. It's just an opinion, huh?
Yeah.
That might think, hey, if I encourage this guy, he might replace me. That might be a reason why they don't want to share information or help a younger DJ. I don't feel so. I feel I want to coexist with new guys and play with new guys. I don't as well as the guys that I play with all the time, And I really love to. I'm a music person. I don't only like to entertain people. I like people to entertain me. So sometimes I'm in a party. Listen, my process to go in a party, before the party, don't talk to me. Like, I have my process, if I'm with myself, I go instrumentally what I need to do. It's just you know the process.
Yeah.
But when my process done, when my hour is done, I ready to be entertained. And if a younger DJ comes in there and put down a show, I real into it. I'm really into what a younger DJ will do. And when he done, I'm making sure some way or somehow I am going to tell that DJ, boss, you might not know me, or you did a real, And I think those things are those positive reinforcements can only help a DJ. And I love doing that. I love helping DJs. I love helping others, my peers, because like I said, I got help from others when I was younger, so I remember that, and I wish I gotten some from others, So
I think especially at this time, that energy is important. And again, it goes back to what Chacha was just saying in the comments: the power of the collective. We all win together as opposed to apart. And especially now, where we're facing a global pandemic, where life is literally telling us to social distance from each other. Now we have to find those innovative ways to encourage others and to be able to help the generations as well that go alongside us. Because funny enough, I do believe that also helps with the reinvention process. Because as you could pass on some knowledge to them, they are able to teach you, because look, you have yourself said that with these lives, even listening to the Week of the Next Generation guys, you're able to learn stuff from them, and that is important for the reinvention process.
Well, yeah, listen, it's like a doctor or a nurse in the medical field. A DJ never stops learning, never stops learning. And I am always willing to hear another DJ's perspective, another DJ's knowledge to help my journey. You understand? Right. So I'm humble enough to say that I would not hesitate to call a fellow DJ of mine and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you think? You know, if we're talking music now, we'd exchange ideas. Those things are important in your longevity and your continuing this journey as being a DJ.
You just said something about where to think about this, and this was not something I wanted to discuss because I had some other things I wanted to get to, but it just came back to memory. I think it's important for us to actually put that out there because, again, we have plenty young DJs and young creatives who are looking to take their skills and their abilities to the next level. So they're probably trying to figure out how they do that. One of the things that I would say I've seen you do, and this is something that I did with Tony Cross as well. When you guys do Soca Brainwash, you come with a whole particular concept of how it is that you're going to perform. And I always go back to, I think it was, if not this year, it wasn't this year, it wasn't last year, I think it was the year before Soca Brainwash. You guys came up, I think, as like Black Panthers or something like that. Like, if you remember what...
2 years ago. 2 years ago. Yeah.
Is that something, is it something that you sit down and conceptualize for certain events? Because I do believe that is important. I believe that what we're doing is a show. So what is the process like in coming up with a concept like that? And I say that because, again, if there are any DJs watching, I want them to understand it's not just about, okay, well, I go and play a song, play that song, but it's also putting on a show for people to enjoy.
Right. So like everything else, like anything else you do in life, what can you do? Because everybody could do it. If I'm in a show or like a Soca Brainwash with 9 or 10, 12 DJs, we can all play the same music, right? Now we're playing for 8 to 10,000 people. What can I do to stand out or separate myself from the rest? And that's where a creative process comes in. It's not just the music. No, we do. Tony and I I'll be calling. I'm not lying to you. I'll call Ryan. What are we doing? What's going on? Before you guys even know, I'm like, what are we doing next year? Because I need to, it takes a while to think about it, And sometimes these ideas come at the craziest times, they come at the craziest time. Sometimes they come at the, I admit sometimes the most intoxicating times too. Serious. Like we'll be in a party and, for example, that Black Panther thing may have been, we'll be in a party and we drinking and we're having a time and we party. And I would turn to him and Tony will come and say, hey, Black Panther. Brainwash. And I do so. Yes, boy. And then we build from there. That's how it happens. A lot of times that's how it happens. You would believe sometimes we talking in a corner and it's about something we thinking about months down the road. So now you said something about Soca Brainwash in particular. Yes, Soca Brainwash in particular is taken seriously because when you go on that stage for the 45 minutes to an hour, you're showcasing your talent to 10,000 people from all over the world, right? So Soca Brainwash is the only platform where we are the stars.
Yeah, I do remember Private Ryan saying that in Brainwash 2-3 years ago, where he went and
we are the stars.
He went and said as a DJ, I always appreciate the fact that yes, Carnival is about the artists, but he wanted to create a DJ showcase. You understand?
A DJ showcase. Now, if you're going to create a DJ showcase, it's not just to go up there and just play music. You got to come be creative and let people when you come. I want to feel when I think of the concept, think of what I could possibly play with this and what I can do with this concept, whether it be a prop, a dancer, a model, or whatever. I want, when I'm done and I come up that stage, I want people to go, wow, that was wicked. Once mission accomplished, right?
Yeah.
And you know, and a party like Brainwash is where you, how many, you've been there, Shomari, how many flags have you seen out there representing? Now, when I go to that particular country, whether, even if it's Uganda right now, I know there were people in that Brainwash from Uganda who saw me and remember me as a Panther. So if I go there, they will appreciate me. You know?
Yeah, that is it. That is it.
So that's why a Brainwash platform will be taken, you know, more seriously sometimes than others. Although I take every gig I do seriously. And it's something I wanted to mention. I definitely wanted to mention this. To the younger DJs, right? It doesn't matter if you're playing in a barbecue for 5 people or you're playing in Brainwash for 10,000. You put in the same energy. It's very important. And I learned this from 2 people in two separate occasions, right? And it was performed in front of me, and it was said to me, right? There was one time years ago, you know, remember Marshall kind of disappeared, Montano. He kind of disappeared, and he decided maybe he was kind of debating whether he wanted to continue with Ecstatic, and he left Palmer and them to kind of continue on his own, right? And I think he decided, okay, I'm coming back, right? So our promoter got really excited, hire me, hire him, and put him on in DC. So I know this guy probably felt, he getting a good, you know, he get a big venue, can hold at least 5,000, right?
Yeah.
When it's time for Marshall to come on, it had probably no less than 200 people in the party, right? Now, 200 people in a space so big is nothing. It couldn't even fill the front of the thing. That man went on stage and put on such a show. When he was done, he was wet, right? And I watched it. He didn't even have to tell me. And I said, that's something that I have to adapt into my thought process when I am DJing.
I call it performance arts.
Yeah. Another time, Rupi. Remember when Rupi was hot and he was in international acclaim and he was doing stuff. This guy hired us for a party. We're in the party. We go into the party. First of all, the man hired us and put us in the basement of a daycare, right? The gym. It was really bad. The guy did an awful job promoting this party. The party had 20 people, right? And I remember Rupi said, the man said, you want to perform? He said, yeah, I'll perform. And he went on, he jumped on the stage and the man said, wait, look at people. I went on and put on the wettest performance I ever seen for 20 people. Yeah. And I learned from that. Like, go on stage, do your best. Not only do you do your best sometimes for these small numbers, because sometimes those small numbers, you never know, that one person may get you the biggest gig of your career. You understand? I remember performing sometime in a fete in Trinidad. Wasn't that big? It was a fete in Bayview. Probably had a couple hundred people. Did it, performed, do the party, you know, done. Girl walked up to me and she was like, I really love how you play. Didn't know her from Adam. I said, thank you, and I really appreciate it. You know, I always talk to my fans. I talk to everybody, you know. And she said, I would love to bring you to my country to perform. I'm like, where is that? And she said, St. Petersburg, Russia. Right? Wow. Now, had I not said, party lame, party only have, party is a bus party, and you just go on and you're just doing your thing, you never know. I would have never gotten that opportunity that woman wanted to give me. So you always have to do your best. Always mentally do your best, no matter what platform it is, where it is. You're a DJ. You got here to entertain. You got paid to entertain. It does not matter what people are out there. Do what you were hired to do. And
even with that, even if it is that there's somebody in the party who is not a promoter that could book you somewhere, at the end of the day, as a creative and as a curator of entertainment, we are brought on a platform to play to make people happy. And there may be one of those 15 people in that party, girlfriend, he might have now get horn, or she might have now break up with she man, and you go on and play, and she felt so good after that performance that she went home feeling better. So you would have done your job, not just to entertain, you smiled, but you have done your job not just to entertain and not just to get that the acclaim, but at the same point in time, you have brought happiness to people. I'm glad you mentioned soca because... Can I
tell this interesting story? Because it was just today. I keep in touch with all my DJ friends. I keep in touch with all my people. I try to keep in touch all the time. So one of my conversations I had today was with the Giselle Lawasi one, because Giselle and I are really good friends. You know, we I do the Rise and Shine with her, you know, the Shine in Miami with her. But aside from that, we've known each other. And she's an interesting story, not to cut you. And it's funny what you said that. That's why I laughed. She said to me she was on the radio one day, and a guy asked her to play a song. I don't remember the song, but it was an off song. And it wasn't time to play it. But she said, you know what? I'll play it anyway because he asked for it. You know, and she played it. Right? She said later on that night, right? The man called back and said, I want to thank you for playing that song.
Yeah.
He said because it was a difference between me pulling the trigger with the gun I had to my head.
Wow.
Right? And that hit home. That means it shows how powerful we are as entertainers and how we can change people's lives. You know? Yesterday when I did that shine, that live thing, I got so many overwhelming responses of how it uplifted them. You know, it wasn't just to just go on and just do it. You know, people motivated me to say, please do it, because we really need this. Like we really, we miss it, and we really wanted it. And when I did it, it was an overwhelming. So we as entertainers have to have that responsibility and know that we are here for a purpose too. Well, that's our purpose, to make people happy. You know,
ironically enough, even with that, because I got a chance to tune in to, I think it was Sunday, when you and Tony were on Sunday. You were on Sunday as well too, right?
That was our first time. Yeah, we just went up for the first time.
And you could have seen that at that point in time when I came on T Live, there was already like 250 people. And like I'm somebody, I could judge people's emotions very well. I guess that is a talent, if you want to call it. And you could see that both you and Tony, but especially you, had the presence of time to understand that, like we actually reaching real people right now. And it's important that we do this because, not just because people want a party or people want a line, but we actually reaching people. And you can see because there was a point in time when you went to the microphone and it's like, yeah, people, well, we now sort everything properly. We thank you all for waiting with us, yada, yada, yada. And then I started seeing people saying, yeah, we're good to go, we're good to go. And that is something that must be such a motivating feeling as an entertainment person. You see, there's nobody can say that music is not part of their lives. Right.
Right? And people use music as an escape, from many things, for many different reasons. And when this pandemic happened, I like to say not only to my peers, but big up to all the DJs around the world who decided to take it upon themselves to entertain people, to take this whole crisis off their minds.
Correct.
And make the extra efforts. Even if it was a DJ that slapped a controller on top of his dressing table, he went live just to please people, because that's what we are, essential entertainers, just like they're essential workers. Yeah. We are essential entertainers. And again, it comes back to what I was saying before about how to use the tools of social media to connect. Because if this happened in 1990, we would have been screwed. Everybody would have been lost. Everybody would have been miserable. We all would have been distressed, right? Yeah. But we knew how to use technology. We knew how to use social media. We knew how to connect to our fans and make it happen and entertain people and take it off their minds. This, like I said, this was my first time coming up. I figured, I knew I wanted to do it. I knew I had to do it, but I wanted to do it right.
Right.
All the stuff behind me was never here. You had an interesting interview the other day with, I forgot who it was, about having your tools. I was one of those guys who didn't have my tools. Why? It's because, for example, last year alone, I probably spent about 20% of the year in New York. So I am never home, right? Correct. Sometimes I would do a session or a rundown of some songs and get one wicked response, and Tony would turn around to me and say, "How you do that?" I say, "In my head," because he know I don't have stuff at home, right? I guess I'm fortunate that God gave me that gift to have that that mixer in my head. You know, I can do it in my head. You know, I have that natural ability to know when I hear a song, I'm like, next time I could try that and try that. I'll always remember it and I'll experiment and I'll mess around with it. I did not have those tools. You know, I was one of those people that did not have the tools, right? This is a part of my basement. My basement was not like this 3 weeks ago, right? But again, it's about adapting, and I knew I had to do it. And when I did it and I went on the first time, I did not realize how overwhelming it was, how people was so elated and happy to see us, you know, and it was really, really moving. It really touched me, and that's what motivated me to say, it motivated me to say, you know what, I'm going to try and do this shine thing the next day because people want it. You know, it wasn't for pips or nothing. I wanted it because people wanted it. And when I did it, it moved me. It really moved me, and I really want to thank everybody for that support, man. You know, and once it moves me, it's a cycle. You know, you move me, I move you, and it's a cycle that keeps moving.
As I said, I tuned in for about 15 minutes because I was on my way out the house, and again, you could tell with people, and like you are there, like you're playing or whatnot. Tony is setting up. But you can see, like, when you start to talk and whatever, and then you see the numbers coming and the way how you address it on the microphone and talking and relating to people, you can see that you really did genuinely appreciate that love and support that you got online, because you weren't really doing that much before, and now that you have all these people looking on, it's like it validated the fact that, yo, I really need to continue doing this, you know?
Yes, and you know what it is? You know what it is? It comes back to what we were saying too. A lot of people don't know how we got here, you know. This journey of so-called being an international DJ comes with a hefty price, you know, and, you know, we all know what we're talking about with that, you know. It comes with a hefty price of, you know, your social life, your private life. You know, a lot of people have come and tell me, oh my God, I wish I had your life. I was like, sometimes you really don't want to have my life sometimes.
Remember what Jordan said in the last dance, that winning comes with a price, and being on top comes with a price. And sometimes
there's certain sacrifices,
people are not aware of that price.
I'm thankful to have understanding friends and family. I have a very understanding son, you know, that's with me as well. So, you know, but it comes with a price. You don't just get there. It's a very hard journey. Very hard journey. It's not like like you said, it's not just playing music. It comes so to do something like that and get the love back, it makes you feel like that sacrifice was worth it. You know?
Yeah.
It really validates your sacrifices and the time that you put into this. You know? A lot of people ask me, you know, people ask me to this day, sometimes I always, you live in Grenada? I thought you live in St. Lucia. You live, you know, because
that's just like me at St. Vincent. So everybody feel I'm Vincent.
Yeah, I thought you from Trinidad, because I'm always traveling and you know, and internationally all over the place. So I am hardly ever home, you know. As a matter of fact, when the pandemic happened, that was the only plus I enjoyed with it. I was glad to be home, glad to be actually home more than a month, you know. And to this day, I haven't felt like oh my God, like I'm losing my mind. I'm still enjoying it, you know. You know, I may not enjoy the fact of not making, you know, the same amount of money that I made before, but nobody is at this point. You know what I mean? So this is not just a me thing. This is a everybody thing. Everybody is impacted by this situation. So again, as DJs though, we have to figure out how to adapt and figure out what's what's down the road. I don't know. You don't know. We don't know.
As I said that, as I spoke about it being an everybody situation, and the innovation that we've spoken about going into this, I want to wrap up by 10:30. So I want to actually deal with this part for 15 minutes because this was something we spoke about before. And then I saw some of the questions that people asked. So I want to get to those questions as well.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, everybody would have been speaking about what took place on Saturday with the versus battle between Beenie Man and Bounty Killer, right? And it brought up a very interesting conversation that I've had with a couple of my friends in entertainment and one or two of my personal friends as well, right? So I want to get your point of view on two things. The first dealing with a regional concept and the second dealing with the music part of it, right? The regional concept is this. You saw a lot of people posting that the versus battle on Saturday was a win for the Caribbean, right? But I did take note of some people on Twitter and on different parts of social media that were like, well, is it really a win for the Caribbean or is it a win for Jamaica? Now, to me personally, it didn't matter to me in that regard because at the end of the day, I love to see all the other islands around us develop. So whether it was Jamaica, St. Lucia, Grenada, whatever country it was, if they were represented, I'm very, very happy for them. But why do you think that so many people have felt that what happened on the weekend was a win for the Caribbean, so to speak?
Well, because, I mean, Jamaica is a representative of the Caribbean. So naturally, they would say it's a win for the Caribbean, but it was definitely a win for Jamaica.
Yeah.
It was definitely a good look. The platform that was created there and the exposure that that not only those two veteran artists, iconic artists, got, but they represented their country doing it. So I have no problem with them saying it's a win for Jamaica, but it was also a win for the Caribbean because Jamaica represents the Caribbean and we have one Caribbean people. So music, I think Caribbean music, when you say Caribbean music, it falls under different categories, right? There's reggae, there's soca, there's Caribbean music. So if it says, if they're going to say it represents the Caribbean, it was a big win for the Caribbean, I agree with it, and it's a win for Jamaica as well.
But so that also brings up very interesting thoughts I just had, right? Though you and I understand totally, and everybody here would understand as well, that there are multiple islands within the Caribbean singing reggae and dancehall. But it is general knowledge that when you think of dancehall, when you think of reggae, you think Jamaica.
That's the foundation, right? Yeah.
That's Jamaica. Yeah. We look at it as the foundation.
Well, to add to what you're saying, when the world globally, universally thinks dancehall and thinks reggae, they think Jamaica. That's an important thing to say as well.
Right.
Because when you think more, yeah.
Right. So basically what I'm saying though is that now, especially you and I can relate to this, and a lot of other people who are in the comments can relate to this because we have multiple people from the Caribbean diaspora, especially in New York, that come from different countries. So to me, soca is no longer a Trinidad and Tobago thing, right? Do you think that because soca now is still trying to find that international appeal to some extent? And when I say appeal, I think the appeal is out there, but the recognition, do you think that that is one of the reasons why it's been so challenging for soca to be able to get that platform like what we saw on Saturday?
Well, I think the soca journey still continues. I think when you think about the reggae and the dancehall and why people all over the world can relate to something to what happened on Saturday, is because Jamaica had a head start with this. I mean, or let's say the genre of dancehall and reggae music had a head start with this internationally for years before.
Right.
So like you just said, you just said, you know, when you, if anybody thought about soca, you know, 10 years ago plus, you know, we thought Trinidad. Now it's evolving into, you know, more countries being recognized. So the journey continues for soca music. You know, do I think we will get there? Why not? Why not? I don't know where the journey will take us, but we're on the right track. I think I never thought I would be doing so much carnivals the way I've done now. True. And so it's because of the broad expansion and knowledge that people are getting of soca music, right? You know, last year, as I always tell people this, last year I counted 17 carnivals I did. You know, I never thought I would be doing that. 17 different carnivals, some of them different categories of soca. You know, it's not just one category of soca. You know what I mean? Before
I continue, I want to get to questions quick, because if I don't do that, people go into bad mouth, and I can't take that today. I really can't take
no problem.
Right? So let me get to this first question I just saw just here. Hold on. Oh, damn. No, I don't want to post that question. Right. So this person wants to know, how do you respond to persons asking you to pull up or restart a song?
That is never an issue. That's never an issue. What bothers me is when I play in pace and you ask me to play Carry On. That is a problem. If you ask me to pull up and think and we having fun, no problem. But how could I be playing waiting on the stage? Or how could I be playing stage gone bad? And then you come, DJ, can you play Patrice Carry On? I'm not walking the party. I want to hear it now. Oh God! Oh God!
Don't do that now. Don't do that.
Don't do that. That's our problem.
That is one. Hold on. Okay. Controversial question. I want to bring this one because it's looking controversial. So you can say it has always been rumored that you had a set list of songs that other DJs couldn't play before you're not fit. Could you comment on that, and if that's true or not?
Rumor you had a list of songs that other DJs couldn't play. Nope, not true.
Right.
Not true. No, definitely not true.
Right. So we got
why would I tell a DJ? No, I would say the only time that I did that was in Soca Brainwash, and it was a request only because we were featuring the year we were doing Natty and Thunder.
I remember.
And we featured a pan solo to come on stage.
Yes.
Right? So we told Ryan and told Pan, so I requested something like that is what I would do. But in a regular party, I would never tell a DJ.
You know, and this again is something important to presentation that I am big on, because I kind of grew up looking at Marshall Montano's performances and understanding how he takes a stage. So look at that. This is Soca Brainwash probably in 2015 or 2016 or somewhere around there. And I always remember walking into that party, and Tony is on the mic, and you guys were playing Top Striker at the point in time with the pan introduction, and Tony literally on the stage saying like he wants to cry now because of how much he feeling the song now. But the truth of the fact is that, again, when you leave that impeccable mark in that presentation, people are going to remember, because like I could sit down and say, yo, that year when you guys came on stage and played the pan instrumental to Top Striker and yada yada yada, and I can even tell the time and date was. That's something that presentation is important.
It comes back to what I was saying about a platform like Brainwash. You have to do something that makes it memorable. That when I come up that stage, I have to say, yes, we did it. You know what I mean? When you go in the crowd and everybody's telling you, oh my God, great performance. You know, mission is accomplished. Yeah, you have to do that. You have to do it on a platform like that.
Yeah. Look at this question here. What are some of the ways in which you would transition without beat matching?
I don't beat match.
Okay.
So when you say transition, I go by. I go by the feel of the music. Listen, it's a process when I go to a party. If I have to play in a party say from 1 a.m., my job doesn't start at 1 a.m. My job probably starts at about 11. Right? So when I walk into a party, first of all, I'm not just walking around just to go get a drink. I'm walking around to see who's there, what kind of demographic is there, the age group, and also, most importantly, you're trying to hear what the DJs are playing before and what are they playing that's motivating the crowd or moving the crowd or what not moving the crowd. And as you get closer to my set is when I start to know what I am going to do, and I do it, and that's my process.
Ironically enough, as I said that, going back to earlier conversation I had with Kerry and somebody else, I think it was Puffy or one of them. A lot of people see DJs behind stage, backstage, before a performance, and everybody feels like, well, as they like to say in Trinidad and some parts of the Caribbean, you look standoffish now. But
standoffish, no,
it's never. That as you rightfully said, the performance didn't start at 1. The performance started at 11 because at 11 that is when you were analyzing how to go and perform.
My job started as soon as I walk in that fest and I'm here. First of all, not only that, I want to know the equipment is properly working. I want to know all the DJs having any issues, if system is breaking down, mic not working. If I hear a CD player is working or not working, I will walk by the set, check the guys, hey, everything good, what's going on? It's a process. You have to make sure all your tools working and walk around and get a vibe and get a feel, And me, I take a little drink too, take a drink and motivate myself, definitely vibe with everybody too. Yeah. And say, you know what? Now I know what to do. When I'm done, I could talk to the world. I may even talk to you before, but just before, don't talk to me because I'm trying to get into my zone,
Exactly. Yeah. It's a zone that you're looking for.
It's a mental thing, yeah.
Right. So I see another question come up here. Eventually transition to paid. Right. This is a good question actually. Does Back to Basics think that all DJs will eventually transition to paid virtual fests in the long term?
I don't think they would eventually transition to paid, but I think it'll be part of our lives now. I think that I think it's important for DJs to try to find some way to incorporate it into their day-to-day now from now on, because we don't know what's going to happen. Here in New York, they're talking about the possibility of, I guess, all over the world about a second wave. Who knows what's going to happen? And doing these things might be a possibility to prepare for it. We wasn't prepared. I think the only person who was prepared on the planet for this was Kevin Brown. He reminds me of. The people that when they had the threat of nuclear war, they was digging holes and digging bunkers under the house. Kevin built that studio about 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
And then when the thing happened, he just dusted off and started ruling. So I think we don't know, we don't know what's going to happen. So in the meantime, if you want to do this and you want to continue to do this, you should have some sort of preparation for it.
Will there be a Back to Basics podcast coming soon?
You know what? A lot of people through the years have asked me about that, and it comes back again to the time of things, right? So I've been entertaining it now that I have time to, now that there is time and I've been home a little more. I've been entertaining it. My focus now is on these streams to see how I can, harness it and make it into something productive and entertaining for people. So that's something that I'm going to entertain now that I have the time. But I really didn't have the time through the years. It's been year after year. I mean, it seems very recent, not very recent, but it seems like people, like DJs have only been traveling probably within the past 10 years, or maybe it's a little less to date. I've been traveling before that, we didn't even mention this before, back in when Kevin Little had turned me on, I got the opportunity to go on a whole European tour for a month and a half as his DJ.
What exactly was the process for you then to really put everything else aside that was probably going on professionally that you probably had at that point in time to go into this full time?
So again, interesting story. Again, my choice when I was working, my choice in career, even though I had a degree in business administration, the minor that I was doing, I took a minor in broadcasting, and that kind of took me out into the world of radio, right? So while I was in my college radio station, I got a job offer, which turned into my career at the time. So I had a degree in business administration, but I wound up being and training to be a certified production engineer for CBS Network.
Right.
Which was not CVS, the pharmacy, CBS.
CBS.
Everybody said CBS?
Yeah.
So I worked for CBS for a long time, and under that umbrella, I worked for VH1, BET, you know, and all those things. I worked for like Dan Rather, Marcus Stewart. I used to produce, you know, country shows, like 3-hour country shows. I used to produce them and mix them and put them together, you know, and I did that for a long time, you know, but I didn't do it by choice though. Like, I knew I wanted to, I was excelling in it. I was moving on, and you know, my job was great. It was great. I was doing the BET thing. I was meeting everybody. I was doing my job, and I got laid off. That's what happened. But while I was doing the engineering job at CBS, I was doing little weekend jobs, and when I was doing the Sound City thing. But then I started to say, maybe I need to focus more on my engineering career.
Right.
And that was about the same time where I broke away from Sound City, and I started doing Back to Basic in 2000. Right. Now, when I started Back to Basic, I was doing my little gigs, but I was working weekends, so I couldn't really do it every weekend.
Right.
So I used to just do it off. So it was really it wound up being a side gig, just a little side thing, no big thing.
Right.
But when I got laid off, I sat there. I had a mortgage to pay, I had a child to feed, and a family to take care of. And I said, well, I have this talent here. Let me see what this can do. And it just took off. Like when I decided to jump, I jumped into it, and I decided to put my efforts into it, and it jumped off. And here we are today. I never look back.
There's a reason to why I think fate brought me back to that question, because there's something we spoke about on the phone earlier. And look at the point in time when you got laid off. And that for anybody is a really heart-wrenching experience, because you don't know where money is going to come from, resources are going to come from. But the innovation that you put into yourself and into your brand is now what has built the name of Back to Basics. So I brought back that question to show, just for anybody tuned in, that even at a time like this, with a global pandemic, like I'm not telling you that I have to be reminded at times, because I'll give you a story. Behind me right now, some of this equipment I had for the longest while. But the thing that I value the most is this turntable here, right? This 1200. Because this pair of 1200s I have, I found out actually is DJ Lalu's 1200s, which made their way through the grapevine and ended up in my house. You understand? I've had these 1200s for 10 years. I found out that the guy who had purchased them from, the guy who purchased him from the other person before, this is DJ Lalu's pair. And for me, every time I look at this, it's a consistent reminder of all the people who would have built on something, especially at points in times where there was crisis, and you have never felt that you could have been pushed forward to do more. And look, as you said, you were laid off, and you use that as a point in time to delve deeper into yourself, to bring the innovation out, to be as successful as you are. And that's a lesson I think anybody could take at this point in time, especially in this pandemic, you know?
Correct. Like, and I said it earlier, like, you have to figure out what next, what do I need to do? Like, it's either you're going to lay down there and just overwhelm you, or you're going to get up and move. If you want to stay in this business, if you want to stay doing what you want to do as a DJ, then you need to get up and figure it out.
Yeah.
Or you know, start thinking alternatives.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to happen for you. You got to make it happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen for you.
Yeah, let me go back to the questions quickly, and then we can wrap up shortly. Sweetest Savage have some good questions tonight. So I see she's asking, how come you don't do mixes on like SoundCloud or YouTube for your fans to have any time they feel your energy, etc., etc.?
Well, that's like the same question with the podcast. It's just a question of time. Time was not on my side to really sit down, and I'm a perfectionist. Like I'm not going to just go out there and just do podcasts. There's 1,000,001 podcasts. I want to do something that when I do it, what can I do to make it different? What can I do to make it, to make it go, I really, fun fact, when I was down here for the 3 weeks working on this studio down here and putting it together, a fun fact, and I told him this, I have never listened to not one of Private Ryan mixes. I never did, right? And I needed, it was me alone in the house here, so I said, I just hook up the phone and I just said, I'm gonna listen to some Ryan. I started with one, and in 3 weeks, I probably went down to about 25 to 30 deep of mixes that he did. And I call him as a friend. I said, dog, you're a real body, dog, right? Yeah. So I want that when I do it, I want that same reaction too.
Yeah, I
don't just want to put it out to put it out.
I agree with that because I think I see Selector Kerry join the chat, so big up to Kerry, and he and I discussed it because everybody keeps asking a lot of my DJ friends, especially Kerry and other people, like, why are you not putting out mixtapes now? And I have grown to understand that as much as you would want to release content for people, I'll use a term that Kevin Crown made. We are in the NBA of DJs. This is the NBA league.
Correct.
And because we're in the NBA, you want to make sure that when you put out some representation of yourself, is the best representation of yourself. And if it's like, and it can't just be, as I rightfully say, well, they just mix this and mix that. So even with my process, a lot of my mixes have been concepts that, as I say, come to me 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, wherever. I remember Kerry having a conversation with Kerry a couple of days ago, and I go and sell out his idea. But he was actually telling me about this real cool idea for this mix that he wanted to do over a particular period of time and how he wanted to put it together. But again, it's just, as people would not know that we are our own biggest critics. So we want to make sure when we put out something, it has the kind of content. Because again, look at how your studio is set up, and you just said that this is something that didn't exist how long ago? Like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I just started this about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. So from the ground up. Yeah.
So when I saw that on Sunday, I literally thought that this studio was set up like a while now. I see all kind of, and the proper microphones, everything. But this is now where it is that, you realize that you have to be at a particular standard. And if you can't make that standard, well, you're just not going to bother to do it. So I totally get it. I'm going to take 2 more questions quickly.
Okay.
Just now. Actually, I have 3. So, hey, big up DJ Spice. I'm going to throw a DJ Spice question. When is the Sound City reunion?
Jesus!
Oh, Spice! Oh, Spice! Oh, Spice!
Oh, Spice! Soldier! Actually, Spice used to work with me at CBS as well, back in the day. Yeah, we both used to work at CBS.
Well, look at it.
Yeah.
Look at it. Let me see.
Stop your stupidness, Spice.
Right. Oh, this is a real good question. Do you feel comfortable working Uber Soca Cruise 2020 if it's sales given social distancing? I think that's a very good question.
Well, the responsibility of them and the cruise line industry has to convince me that I am safe to do so. I mean, it's a very touchy subject because we all know how cruises are, right? I mean, on a normal, there's people that go on cruises and come out with a common cold, because that's just how it is. Now, I'm just on a wait and see kind of scenario. I really hope it can happen and will happen. I'm hopeful of it because, that whole cruise experience, like, again, that's another thing in my lifetime I never thought would happen, that I would actually be playing soca music on a cruise ship, I've been on a few cruises before, and you know, it was just what I expected that I would know about a cruise for the rest of my life. Not knowing that I could use the platform of what I grew up in, what I love, my passion, as something that of the sole purpose of being on a cruise. But, you know, unfortunately, this virus, this pandemic is making things doubtful for a lot of things, boy.
You know? I want to throw out a question to you. I also want to throw it out as a possibility to the 100+ people that viewing us on the Instagram live tonight. Could you foresee an entire year, starting from right after TNT Carnival? Could you foresee an entire year with no carnival? As in no carnival in total. So I'm talking about no Vincy Mas, because so you and I, we on the same boat as this. So we already lose Vincy Mas, we already lose St. Lucia Carnival. We already lose, well, if Crop Over is another one. I know, everybody knows that Back to Basic is a Grenada man. So we already lose Grenada.
I was quite depressed with that one too, by
right. So could you imagine now, what would that look like to have no carnival for another year? Because as I've been saying to people, how can you social distance a wine? Like you can't do that now. How you go and social distance a weave? So,
well, let me tell you this. What I feel, and I've thought about this, right? Like, you know, I've had a lot of conversations with Brian and I, you know, Kevin and I, you know, we all sort of have conversations on this. You know, when this thing come back, what do you think is going to happen? My personal opinion is we need to and will have a complete reset. A complete reset.
I might say pain and sorrow, yes.
Yeah, well, it's pain and sorrow because at the end of the day, we dealing with a deadly virus. And let me remember, we're dealing with something that's killing you. So it's going to be a whole reset process. Granted, if tomorrow they said we are all good to go, the entire globe is entirely free of this virus, I think people have been conditioned the past few months to still fear going outside and socializing. Of course, they're the reckless ones, but they're most of the responsible people who are going to rethink this whole thing up. You know, even if they go, your thought process is going to be different. You know, when I buy a drink, what going on with that glass, boy?
Yeah.
You know, is that a reusable glass? You know, when you're in a club, you use a glass. You know. Yeah. As simple as that glass is, you are not going to look at that glass within a whole new different light. Yeah. You know, a wine on somebody, I guess the difference between a man and a woman using a bathroom.
So hold on. Let me ask you a funny question. God, I'm going to put this question to anybody else, right? Yeah. Let me say I go to a party in sometime in the near future. There's this girl in the party looking really good. She looking extremely good. And you go in the party, so you and I live in. And they say, boy, I feel like going wine on that girl. And I say, yeah, what? She might have COVID, you know. You still go and take the wine or no?
No, partner. No. Why, boy, no? Every time you say you think, you don't even think. I already taken it already. You don't say it. If you don't say it, no, partner. No. What kind of question is that?
It's a something like, boy, great straw. I go and take out hydroxychloroquine.
No, partner. No. But I think the way our life and how we party and how we enjoy nightlife is definitely going to change. It's definitely going to change.
That is a challenge for especially the Caribbean diaspora, just by how we are now. Like the Caribbean, we very tightly
together. We have a culture. Like I don't know if you saw some videos going around. There's some people they were doing there's some viral videos going around of some places doing some parties where they have a box and they're dancing, everybody dancing in the box. Did you see that?
No.
So they created you know, like the caution tape. Right. They created a 6x6 box, right down the line, and everybody in that box, and one person is in that box, and everybody jamming and dancing with DJ playing, right? That is not our culture.
That is not culture.
You know, I saw one. You saw the one where the DJ was playing, and there's this, you know, lines and lines and lines of cars, everybody blowing on in the jamming from the car.
Yeah. We don't do that.
That is not our culture.
We coming out the car. We coming out the car.
We jumping on top of the car and whining on the car.
That is it.
We whining in the front of the car, the back of the car, right on everything. That's how our culture. So we as a people going to have to reevaluate how we do this party scene. You know, it's like I say, at times we don't know. It's in a real uncertain way.
I see let's see what
Hazmat Fest. Yeah, Hazmat Fest. Oh, that's a good idea. Hazmat wine. Level wine.
We no boy, that's a good idea, you know. Let's give you an idea way.
Sure, you see it, the bag, you see it, God, don't click. Spice going with it now. Spice going with it, right?
All right, so let me see if I can get to one more question here. Right. So this next one, which I think is, me personally, I think it's a gimmick thing, but I'll get your point of it. How do you feel about DJs who don't mix with headphones?
DJs who don't mix with headphones, I don't want to say that word because I don't want to say it, but I am from the authentic old school, and I think
your name is back to basics, you know. So I mean,
I'm right. I believe in playing music has to be from the basics up, you know, and I think the tools you need is proper players, whether it be turntables or CD players or whatnot, your proper laptop, a proper microphone, and a proper pair of headphones. Now, I've seen a lot of DJs DJ without headphones, and they do a pretty good job, right? They do a pretty good job with it. I personally am against it because I feel if you want to change up your routine or your mix with your song, because you might have set cues and you're visually mixing up.
Right.
Now, unless you can read waveforms, which I don't know anybody, one of us who can read a waveform and know where the chorus is or where the verse is, you may want to find a rhythm down towards the end. How are you now doing that without headphones? Yeah. Right? There's a lot of times that there's music at the end. You may want to resort to that. You know, how do you do that? So I find headphones, playing without headphones is something that, and the next thing, very interestingly, when you're not a headphone mixer, you're now a visual mixer. So you're not focusing on anything else but your laptop.
I seen by far Mega. I met Mega last year in Lady Dre's party. I seen like they're going in on Mega here in the chats because I don't know if Mega is a non-headphone fan.
No, well, I mean, like I said, I have no problem with things, but I also feel I've seen DJs do it. They're like this. They're focused on their thing, and sometimes you may miss something out there that you may need to change, you know, because you focus on your player and you're looking at the screen, and I don't like that. I want to feel I like audio in my ears. I like to look at the crowd, and I like to know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Especially a DJ who has a mic man. How do you focus? How do you do that? By just listening?
And then you know? I will say so. I will reiterate something that DJ Marsh said a couple of weeks ago. Music is energy, right?
Yes.
You can't see music. You have to feel music. You understand?
Of course. It gotta move you. It gotta move you too.
And sometimes when you listen to something in a pair of headphones and you prep that to play as a next song,
yes,
it is make a difference feeling it and saying, yo, this will connect, as opposed to seeing it and saying, well, as Kerry was saying, becoming predictable sets now, you know?
Predictable. Come on there. You sometimes you may grab two songs you might put together that you didn't put together yesterday. And while you listen to it, you ain't playing on, but you mix a couple of bars and then you go so you look back. Ooh,
exactly.
You understand? So now, if that move you, now you can resonate that to your crowd. You can't do that by looking at cues and waveforms, and you can't do that. It's predictable. It's predictable.
I see Mega saying what I've seen DJs with headphones failing hard at mixing and DJs without headphones failing.
Well, that's an individual thing, but I just, like I said, I said it earlier. I've seen DJs who has done it without headphones that do a pretty good job. I didn't say that every DJ that I've seen do no headphone mixes failed. I just believe that it's not something I want to do. I think it keeps you limited to what you can do with that. I think
and then I see it, hey, big up Easy Sounds, my brethren. Easy saying here, you may see an energy building and could take advantage of it and elevate the vibe of the party. That is why looking at the crowd is important. So that's why
looking at the crowd is very important.
Like
the energy that you receive, now you know if to elevate or you know what to do. You know if you need to go harder to move up, or you need to just cruise with what you're doing, or you need to just explode. I need to hear what I'm doing. I need to hear that music. So then I may play something, pull a song, hear it, and while I'm mixing, I'm like, go to the next one, boom. I'm thinking about 3-4 songs, and that's by hearing. Like you like Marsh said, you can't see that vibe. You cannot see a vibe. You gotta hear it.
So that's something. If any DJ is looking out here, and as I always say, this is not a platform to pong young DJs, but I will say that we try to use our knowledge as people who have experience to kind of help others make, I would say, much more professional decisions. And to me, you have to feel music. You can't see music. You can see it, I can see it here, however. But you have to feel music. And if it is that you can't feel music, or you have no connectivity to the music that you're playing, you can't expect people to be connected to you in the long run. That is actually the difference, especially when certain DJs could play for hours and a guy could play for 20 minutes. The 20 minutes hype is fine. But if you can play for hours because you have that energy and connectivity, then that means that you will be a DJ with longevity now. That is something I think is important. I
live by the word longevity, and it's in everything.
Let me take the last two questions. One from Kerry. Have you ever pulled out a DJ USB who don't play sports? So you're in a party and a man on the place, and you just decide go books. Have you ever pulled out a DJ?
Kerry, listen. Talk about memorable moments with Kerry. That's one of them.
I didn't even want to know. All right, and the last one here. What is next for Back to Basics Entertainment without unleashing your secrets? Who do we have to look forward to next?
What do we have to look forward to next?
Yeah.
That's a process. At first it was adapted to this. I think what I did years ago was expanding to. I wanted to expand to more countries. This year, providing that I wanted to expand to more countries. I've never been exposed, being that the whole introduction of like bouillon music. I had to admit, Dominica is like a whole new uncharted waters, and I would love to explore. Right. VI is another uncharted waters I would love to explore. St. Kitts, like all those different Antigua, those places I haven't been to. So given the whole influx of the popularity of carnivals and the music from the different regions, 5-6 years ago, I literally told you, and I literally said, let's go Grenada.
Right.
Look what happened.
What's happening with Grenada right now?
And look what happened now. We just went and absorbed it, and we were like, whoa.
Yeah.
And we took it on our person, embraced it and carried it like a messenger, right? And same thing for St. Lucia. The first time I went to St. Lucia was 2010, just for fun, brought me down.
Right.
And that was another different experience. Like it was like, yeah, you grab the music, you embrace it, and you just wanna share it, I wanted to do that with other regions like the VI. And I also love I've been getting a lot of love too from a lot of French Caribbean support, like Martinique, Guadeloupe, and all those places. I would love, that would be my next place where we get back to things that I would love to explore. Because, for some reason, I do get a lot of love and support from that French Caribbean fraction. You know, they get a lot of support.
The team of the French soca lovers and that entire team, boy, they really support. They support hell hard.
They really love and support me, and it's only right for me to embrace their culture as well. Yeah. So it's almost like being Christopher Columbus and exploring different places. That's what I would like to do. And bring it back home, and bring it back home too, because just the same way how the whole bouillon thing came from, when Marshall and came with the whole family and thing. A lot of people didn't know it was there, but it's been there forever. Bouillon has been hot and crazy forever. Yeah. I love to. You can relate to this passion with me too. I feel like Vinci music is some of the greatest music that's come out of Vinci music, Vincent, and it's not as recognized as say as St. Lucia and a Grenada thing. You know why? Because again, we're talking about social media. Like social media blew it up. It's big, and now nobody not on that, right? Yeah. But I put St. Vincent last year as one of my top 3 in some of the best music that came out.
Yes, it is.
And people don't know that. Like there's so you know why I say that? This is what I say, right? So like St. Vincent had such a broad when you go to Grenada and you're playing bass and they say, okay, we're going to wind it down. DJs don't know what I'm talking about. You're starting over at about 120 again. You ain't going down to 104.
Not right? St. Vincent.
So, and for the people who don't know what I'm talking about, we're talking about BPM. So in Grenada, you would slow down a party or reset a party mid-tempo, as opposed to how we would normally do it with a nice groovy thing. Yeah. St. Vincent has a broad thing from groovy straight to power, and their power is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Right? So and people don't know this. Why? Because they're not on it. So I feel as a DJ, and DJs should do it too, is take the chance and do if you feel you love it, then people will love it if you can resonate that to the people and give it to the people. That's why when I play music, I don't care. If I like it, I am going to play it. I do not care.
I think that's important because, again, you and I have this in common. A lot of DJs who here have this in common with us. And for everybody who might be looking on and wondering, well, what are we talking about in this way now? The bottom line is that every single Caribbean country that has a carnival is a unique carnival.
Unique.
I have been fortunate to be a road DJ with a band in Dominica for the last 3 years. That bouillon culture is one. Then when you come down to Vinci Mas, I've been in Vinci Mas since 2013. Vinci Mas is energy for the entire weekend, right? Correct. Just like you said, when you go to St. Lucia and you get the Dennery, and I saw Kerry and I'm talking about the boom boom wall experience when you're walking past the boom boom wall. And
St. Lucia is Dennery and bottom. That is all they get it.
You're right? And you're passing the airport, and while you're whining and a girl is seeing a plane taking off, there's something extremely unique about all these experiences that
Grenada is the oil, Grenada is the job. Like everybody's unique. Everybody's unique.
So even with Barbados, some of the events leading up to the road, and then the road itself, and having that walk, then you reach down to the highway. There's something extremely unique about all these islands that we have been fortunate enough through music to be able to experience and to be able to now come back to our home countries and
share it with everybody.
Share it and be the ambassadors for the Caribbean, And I think that
I love being a conduit for the soca music of different countries. Yeah. Love being that conduit.
I think that is one of the saddest things, I guess, that's coming out from what is the aftermath of this virus for this year. But at the same point in time, looking forward, I think, as you rightfully said, and that's something that we've been saying for the longest while, that this entire process now is treated as a big reset. We've all had time now to do certain things, and if you want to call it maintenance work, as I said, you have a son, so now you've had time to spend a good amount of time with your son in that way. There are people here who might have needed to take care of the health. There are people here who might be able to take care of the mental health, which is something that we're going to delve in conversation on Thursday. So
mental health is very important.
I look at this time as the maintenance time. This has already been the maintenance time, as we've been calling the greatest reset time. And even if it is that you don't use this time to do anything in a grand way. Once you use this time to benefit yourself internally, then at the end of the day, it would have been worth it, even though we had the coronavirus.
Correct.
You know?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, I'll have to say, you know, again, we have conversations on and off, but again, so much things I learned in this talk with you tonight that I did not know before. Like, again, I can't believe you were the DJ for Ghettorians. I really can't believe that. That was amazing, like, just to find out that and to be able to share the institutional knowledge that you've had and the experiences that you've had and to be able to motivate so many people that would have listened to this tonight. I think it goes back to validating why it's important that we started this Group Theory Live one-on-one series, you know? And
that's why I like the platform, and that's why I was so willing and excited to do it, because me, as a person, if there's any DJs out there listening, do not hesitate to even throw me a DM, because I answer almost all my DMs from all DJs. That, you know, DJs will ask me the simplest of questions may make a difference to answer, you know, for their answers, how to move on. Yeah. So, you know, don't hesitate to ask me a seminar party. Don't hesitate to, you know, just say, hey, wait, you know, sometimes maybe it may not be the best time to ask, but you can still have a conversation about it. It's not a problem. I am always there and willing to share my knowledge and my experiences to help anyone out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, you know, how can we as a unit, as a collective, as you might say, better ourselves if we don't pass on our experience and our knowledge to the younger generation? Yeah. And there are a lot of good younger generation DJs coming up. They're really talented, they're really good. And sometimes they just need a little direction and a little pep talk or a little piece of advice, you know, that will help them be able to move on their own. And I'm willing to do that and help anyone. So it's never a problem for me.